Mobile accessibility testing, making it effective and efficient for everyone, with Rob Whitaker, AliCamp 2022. AliCamp would like to thank our gold sponsors Intopia, Salesforce and Telstra, and silver sponsors ANZ, Deloitte Digital and Coles.
Hi everyone, thank you very much for joining me. It's an honour to be part of AliCamp, and I really hope you're going to get something valuable out of me talking about mobile accessibility testing. First of all, a little bit about me. My name is Rob. I am an iOS software engineer, and I am a mobile accessibility advocate. Mobile accessibility is something that I am super interested in, and I love to find out people's experiences. So if you have anything that you would like to share, or any thoughts, or any comments, or any questions, feel free to get in touch with me. I have an email address, ally@mobileally.com, so that's A11Y at a11y.com, and you can find me on Twitter, which is Rob, RWAPP. I have a blog, mobileally.com, and an associated Twitter account, which is also Mobile Ally. So that's spelled A11Y again. And there you can find my writing about mobile accessibility, and you can also find various bits of information, talks, blogs, tips, all that kind of stuff that I share on Twitter that hopefully will be useful to you if you are anyway involved in building accessible mobile experiences. I have written a book, Developing Inclusive Mobile Apps, and that covers both iOS and Android. Covers the APIs and everything from a software engineering perspective, but also covers testing, system design, UI, UX design, really everything that you need to be able to make a mobile app for either platform that is both accessible and inclusive. This session is going to be slightly interactive. So if you have an iOS and/or an Android device to hand that you're not currently a TalkBack or VoiceOver user, please have it ready to get involved. I will let you know when it's time for that. So today, I'm going to talk about mobile accessibility testing. I am an iOS software engineer. So this is from the perspective of a software engineer, someone who's actually writing the code to build the apps. But the subtitle is making it effective and efficient for everyone. And that's really my aim, to make mobile accessibility testing that works for the people who use our software in the end, but also for the people involved in building that software. So this on the screen right now is really just a triangle. But if you are familiar with software testing, you've probably seen something pretty similar to this before. It is called a software testing pyramid. And as we go up the pyramid, the tests increase in effort, cost, and time. As we move down the pyramid, the quality of feedback and the reliability of our tests maybe goes down. But essentially, what this means is that we have a kind of a hierarchy of tests. We can pick essentially one from each level, or one from most, or some rather from most levels, to give us a pretty good, efficient, all-round idea of how well our app is going to work and make sure that we maintain that quality. This is my attempt at a mobile accessibility testing pyramid. So at the very top, I put user testing. User testing is the most highest quality of testing that we can have for making sure that our apps are accessible, but it does take time and it costs money. Follow that with audits, manual testing, and then towards the bottom of the pyramid, we have scanning, automated UI testing, and linting I've put at the bottom of the pyramid, which is, it's cheap, it's really quick, but the quality of the feedback and the reliability of that is not as good as some of the things higher up the pyramid. User testing and manual testing towards the top of the pyramid, I consider these essential. These are really essential parts of testing our mobile apps for accessibility. Audits, I would say these are only best used if they are absolutely essential for your current project and the current state of your project. We'll cover this in a little bit more detail shortly. And the bottom section, the bottom half of our pyramid, scanning, automated UI testing, and linting, these can help you to save time, effort, and money. So this is my mobile accessibility testing pyramid. We have user testing at the top, which is the most effective, the most reliable, the highest quality of feedback, but it's slow, it takes a lot of effort, and it costs money. And towards the bottom, we have linting. So let's cover each of these in a little more detail, and we'll start at the very top with user testing. User testing, as I mentioned, is absolutely essential when we're building accessible mobile apps. Accessibility is about humans, and it's about how individuals use technology. So that means that testing with real users with a range of abilities is also essential. Participants in your user testing must be remunerated. People with disabilities are not here to provide you with free labour. And listen to and act on the feedback that your participants give you. Don't expect people with disabilities to be grateful for the accessibility work that you've done. That's not what they're here for. They're here to tell you where you've gone wrong and where you can improve. The second level on our pyramid is audits. Now, audits, I consider that you should use these only if they are essential for your current project and the state of your current project. An accessibility audit is a report created for you by an accessibility professional. These can seem quite negative. They're essentially a document of all of the failings that you've made in your software. And in my personal experience, defects found in these reports are usually just left to languish in backlogs, and it's often difficult to find the impetus and the priority to actually carry out the remediations needed. Audits are really only useful if your accessibility practices to this point are incomplete. So if you haven't considered accessibility throughout the process, a much better option is to get advice upfront when designing and planning your feature, and robust testing, really considering accessibility throughout the process of creating your feature. That will give you a much better, much more robust, and ultimately a cheaper way of building your software. Manual testing is our next level on the pyramid. For manual testing, quality engineers, quality assurance personnel should really perform full manual verification of every screen and feature using VoiceOver or TalkBack and text scaling at an absolute minimum. So all quality assurance engineers should be doing this, regardless of the app that you're building, regardless of the feature, regardless of whatever you decided, that's the absolute minimum. Ideally, QA should really be testing to WCAG 2.1 level AA. That is really the legal minimum, and I would certainly hope that all QA are testing to that level, but I know realistically that doesn't always happen. I highly recommend that software engineers should be performing manual VoiceOver and TalkBack testing. If you do this regularly, it will become a quick and pain-free part of your development flow. We'll cover ways that you can do that shortly. For your manual testing, for your QA engineers, you should decide on the scope that is important. Who are you willing to exclude? Anything that you don't test is potentially excluding someone. So let's talk a little bit about scope. Switch control, voice control, keyboard control, and Braille are all required for WCAG compliance. But VoiceOver and TalkBack testing will give you most of the answers here. So really, if you want to make sure that you're fully WCAG compliant, you have to do testing with switch control, voice control, and keyboard control, and with Braille. But VoiceOver and TalkBack will give you most of the answers. So if you make sure that everything is working with VoiceOver and TalkBack, then it's going to get you maybe 90% of the way there. Responding to user preferences, for example, the user preference to reduce animations, This is going to depend on the feature or project that you're working on and how you've designed it and built it. For example, if you are working on a project that uses a lot of animations, then you're definitely going to want to test for that your app responds to the reduced animations preference. But if you're not using animations, you can obviously skip that. Anything that you choose not to test might exclude someone. In fact, most likely will exclude someone. So it's important to think about who you are willing to exclude from your app, because that's going to guide what you test for. So let's talk about quick testing. What is quick testing? So quick testing is a focused subset of tests that can be performed by anyone. So software engineers, UI and UX designers, anyone working in product. You could include support in this as well. Really, any job role included in making software that is outside of quality assurance engineers. Ideally, QA should be testing to WCAG level 2.1, level AA. So let's talk about setting up how we set up for quick manual testing. This is the part where you get involved. So if you have an iOS or an Android device and you're not currently a TalkBack or a VoiceOver user, then grab your device now and we'll go through some steps that you can do to get it set up for quick manual testing. So first of all, iOS. For VoiceOver, the first thing we want to do is to set up the accessibility shortcut. And if we have the accessibility shortcut enabled, it's going to make it really quick and really easy for you to enable VoiceOver and disable VoiceOver when you're finished, which means it's going to become a super simple part of your regular development flow. You can enable the VoiceOver accessibility shortcut in settings. So you do that in the iOS settings app. Accessibility shortcut, enable on VoiceOver. So it gives you a big list of accessibility settings. The list will vary depending on the device you have and the iOS version that you have. But if you're not already using those features, I would recommend only having VoiceOver enabled. And now to enable or disable VoiceOver, you triple press the sleep or wake button, or the home button. If you have a device with a home button, it's that one. If you don't, then it's the side sleep wake button. And this means that you can then just enable VoiceOver and disable it super simply. If you ever get stuck with anything when you're using VoiceOver, or if you just finished and want to turn it off, it's just triple tap and you're done. Simple as that. So this is what it looks like in the settings app if you're a visual user. Settings, accessibility shortcut, and then gives you a big list of accessibility settings. If you don't currently use any of these settings, I would suggest enable VoiceOver and just enable VoiceOver. And that's going to be the quickest way of enabling this feature. If you do use some of these settings, then it will give you a little menu when you do the triple tap, and it will ask you whether you want to enable or disable VoiceOver or whichever other features that you have enabled. The second thing that we want to turn on for iOS testing is the caption panel. And we do this in Settings app again. So Settings, Accessibility, VoiceOver, and Caption panel. And the caption panel will show you visually what is being read. So if you're a visual user, it gives you that text at the bottom of the screen, which mirrors exactly what VoiceOver is reading. And it kind of looks almost like karaoke. It highlights the word that VoiceOver is currently speaking. And this is essential for validating voice control, keyboard access, and braille will work correctly. And this is one of the ways that we can extend our VoiceOver testing to give us that extra little bit of WCAG compliance really easily. But also, sometimes VoiceOver is not the easiest thing to work out what it's trying to say. It doesn't quite get the pronunciation right. So this will help that as well. So VoiceOver caption panel, we enable it in the iOS settings. We choose accessibility, VoiceOver at the very top. And then at the very bottom, or very near the bottom, there's an option for caption panel. And we want to make sure that that is enabled. TalkBack. If you have an Android device, you want to grab that now. We want to enable the accessibility shortcut for TalkBack in settings. So we go to the settings app on your device, accessibility, TalkBack, and we want to enable the TalkBack shortcut. This is very similar to the shortcut that we talked about with iOS, and it enables you to turn on or turn off TalkBack by holding both the volume keys, so the volume up and the volume down together, for 3 seconds. You hold those both and it will turn it on. You hold them both again and it will turn it off. So again, makes it super quick to get in and out of TalkBack. So in the settings app on your Android device, we go to accessibility. We choose TalkBack. And the first option there is the TalkBack shortcut. And we want to make sure that that is enabled. We also want to enable the caption panel. The caption panel, again, allows us to see what TalkBack is currently speaking. We enable that again in the settings app. So settings, accessibility, TalkBack, settings, advanced settings, developer settings, and display speech output. There's quite a few steps to that one, I'm afraid. Let me read that once more in case you're following along. Settings, accessibility, TalkBack, settings, advanced settings, developer settings, and display speech output. And this again will let you visually tell what is being read by TalkBack. And again, it's essential for validating voice access, keyboard access, and Braille will work correctly. So here is what it looks like in the settings app. If you're a visual user, we are already in the settings app and in the TalkBack accessibility settings. So in TalkBack, right underneath the TalkBack shortcut option, there's a button for settings. We want to scroll right to the bottom and choose advanced settings, and then developer settings, which again is towards the bottom. And the very first option under developer settings is display speech output, and that enables the caption panel for you. Let's talk about navigation basics for both screen readers. The navigation is pretty similar for both. There is a lot of advanced ways of navigating. We're not going to talk about those because this is just for quick testing. This is just for super basic stuff that you need to know, just the basics to get you started. So to do that, to navigate with iOS VoiceOver, we swipe right to go to the next item, or left for the previous item. It's in natural reading order. So if you're using, for example, an Arabic phone, it will be the other way around. So here's a video of me trying this out.
Selected. Test me. Using TalkBack and the VoiceOver. Fred Thomas and the TalkBack. Stiff little fingers. But.
And it is exactly the same for TalkBack. We swipe right to go to the next item or left to go to the previous item. And here's a video of me trying this out with TalkBack on an Android device.
Selected, test me, lyrics, selected, using, lyric, more options for TalkBack, lyric, more option, and lyrics, more VoiceOver, lyrics, more and more TalkBack, more options for song using, button, row 3.
Then once we have navigated, we might want to activate an item that we've navigated to. And to do this, we double tap anywhere on the screen. It doesn't have to be on that specific element. And we double tap anywhere on the screen to activate. And here's a video of me trying that out in iOS. And again, for Android TalkBack, the gesture is exactly the same. Double tap to activate. Here's a video of me trying that out on Android. So those are the absolute basics of navigating in both TalkBack and VoiceOver, how we navigate and how we activate items, and that will give you what you need to do basic testing. and there's no real need to go beyond that. But both screen readers have hundreds of settings, tweaks, features, and gestures that customize navigation and verbosity. No two users will use a screen reader in the same way, and this is why user testing is absolutely essential. If you would like to know a little bit more, then TalkBack comes with a handy tutorial, an interactive tutorial that will teach you some of the basic gestures for TalkBack, and you can access this through your app's settings. Through the device settings. So we go to the Settings app on Android, Accessibility, TalkBack, Settings, and then there is an option for Tutorial and Help, and then you will find a button for Tutorial, and that will launch the TalkBack tutorial, which will take you through some slightly more advanced gestures for navigating with TalkBack if you want to do that. For iOS, there is unfortunately no tutorial built into iOS, but there is a guide on the Apple support pages, which will give you details of how to perform some of the more advanced navigation gestures for VoiceOver. I'm not going to read out the URL to you if that's okay, just because it is quite long. It has some random letters in there, but these slides will be available for you to download, and the link is in the slides. I would also highly recommend Screen Reader as an app for both iOS and Android. You can download this on the Google Play Store or on the iOS App Store. And this is a free app which will teach you how to use screen readers for both devices, both platforms. It will guide you through the gestures that you need to perform various different tasks in each screen reader. It kind of mimics those gestures, so you perform those gestures on the screen. It will teach you how to do them, and it will tell you that you've been successful or otherwise. I highly recommend downloading that app. It is free. You can get it on, as I say, Google Play or on the App Store. The second thing that we need to test when we're doing quick testing is text size. And there's a couple of different things that we can set up to make this super simple to test as well. In Android, there's two things that we need to change: font size and display size. You can find both of them in Settings and Accessibility, and we need to change both of them using the sliders in the settings. Unfortunately, there is no shortcut to do this, as there is with the VoiceOver and TalkBack to enable that. So you do need to make the change in settings every time you want to test something, and then turn it off or reset it to whatever your regular setting would be when you're done. It is possible to make the change with an ADB command if you're tethered to Android Studio. I'm afraid I don't know that off the top of my head, but if you would like to send me a message, if you would like to know, I will happily share that with you. So here's where you find those settings in the Android device settings underneath Accessibility. And under the heading Display, you'll find both the font size and display size settings. And here there is a slider. To do our testing, we want to make sure that it's slid all the way to the right to the largest setting on both of these, both for both font size and display size. For iOS, fortunately, there is a shortcut that we can use using Control Center. So first of all, we need to enable the larger text sizes setting. We do this in Settings, Accessibility, Display and Text Size, Larger Text, and we need to make sure that the larger text sizes setting is turned on. Then we enable the text size shortcut in the Control Center settings, which is Settings, Control Center. And we want to make sure that in the Control Center options that the text size option is enabled there. Then when you toggle Control Center, that you will see a button which looks like two A's. It's a small lowercase a and a large small uppercase A and a large uppercase A. You tap on that button and it will show you a slider which will allow you to adjust the text size. So here it is in Settings. So in the Device Settings app, we open Accessibility. Towards the top, there is an option for Display and Text Size. The second option then is Larger Text. and we want to make sure the toggle for larger text sizes is enabled. We don't need to change the slider here to change the text size right now. We're going to do that later. But just the first thing we need to do is to set it up, making sure that larger text sizes toggle is turned on. Then, to make this really quick, we want to enable the Control Center feature. So in the apps, in the iOS settings app, we want to choose Control Center. And this will give you a big list of things that are set up in your Control Center. There'll be some things that are there already for you. Maybe you've customized this list. We need to make sure that this list of features that we have has text size in there. So you're looking for it to have the kind of red circle next to it rather than the green circle. The green circle means you add it, so you tap on that to add it. Once you've done that, and you can then toggle Control Center, you tap on that AA button and it gives you a slider. And this slider will then allow you to change the text size from whatever you currently have it to, really for our testing, we want to make sure it's at the largest. And one great feature of doing the toggling the text size in this way using Control Center is that we can toggle the text size just for the app that we're testing. So you can keep your device's text size at whatever you would usually have it set for, but then for the app that you're testing, we can just ramp that app only all the way up to the maximum. And then we can always test that at the largest text size. So now we know how to do our quick testing. We're all set up. Hopefully you had your devices and went along with the testing setup that I did with you there. So now we're all set up. We need a checklist. We need to know what we're going to test against. So here's what we're looking for with text size. At the largest size is all text complete and not truncated, clipped, or overlapped. At the largest size are all user interface elements visible, accessible, and not truncated, clipped, or overlapped. Do all text elements respect the user's chosen text size? If there are some elements which are not scaling, then there could be a good reason for that perhaps, but most of the time we probably want to fix that. Do all meaningful non-text elements, for example, image buttons or meaningful icons, respect the user's chosen text size? So if you have an image button which has an icon instead of text, then we need to make sure that that icon scales proportionally with the user's chosen text size as well as the text. A quick testing checklist for TalkBack and VoiceOver. Are all text, interactive, and meaningful elements accessible to TalkBack and VoiceOver? So when you're swiping left and right, can you actually access those elements? Are all interactive elements interactable? So when you double tap to activate, does it actually activate? Are all interactive elements correctly identified? For example, if it's a button, if it's something that you can interact with to make something happen, is it announced as a button? Are text fields announced as button as text fields, not as buttons? That would be wrong. Are sliders announced as sliders? This allows your users to know how to interact with an element. Are all values accessible? For example, text in text fields, is that read? Is that announced to your users? The current value of a slider, is that read? Is navigation efficient or is it repetitive and laborious? And finally, are all utterances meaningful? For example, if you have units for numbers, for example, if you have a temperature and it says degrees C, visually, does VoiceOver and TalkBack read that as degrees Celsius rather than degrees C, whereas Celsius is obviously rather more meaningful. So a final thought on quick testing. These tests will not ensure that your app is fully accessible, but they will cover the majority of cases, meaning that you can leave quality assurance engineers with deeper knowledge to focus on more complex cases, thus making sure that they can spend time on ensuring your app is accessible. So here's a challenge if you are an iOS or an Android engineer. The next time you review a pull request, pull that PR, pull the branch, build it to a device, and using the settings that we've just enabled, fire up VoiceOver or TalkBack, and share what you found on your team's Slack channel. Maybe you found that it's accessible and everything looks good, in which case, celebrate that success. Maybe you found that there could be some improvements, in which case, let people know that this is something that you can look at in future. The middle of our pyramid, scanning. So these last three in the pyramid, they help us to save time, effort, and money. So what do I mean by scanning? So scanning tools are tools that need manual input to flag potential accessibility issues for investigation. So here's some example of these tools. Axe Android. This is available for Android, and it is an app that you download from the Google Play Store for free. And rules that this can test for is tap target size, color contrast, and label presence. Accessibility Inspector. This comes with part of Xcode, and this tests iOS. And you can open it from Xcode itself in the Xcode menu, open Developer Tool, and Accessibility Inspector. It is a free app because it's included with Xcode, and the rules here include label presence, dynamic text support, and tap target size. Accessibility Scanner. This is downloadable for free, again, from the Google Play Store. It is, of course, for Android. And the rules here include tap target size, color contrast, and label presence. Evinced. Evinced is available for both iOS and Android. You can download it from evinced.com, and it is free. There are 4 rules last time I used it, which included semantic role, color contrast, and non-focusable elements. I know that they were working on many more rules for that as well. And DQ. DQ, they make a scanner for both Android and iOS. It is a paid tool, so you can get it from dq.com/Android-accessibility or dq.com/iOS-accessibility. And the rules here include touch target size and color contrast. Google GSCX Scanner, and this is a product made by Google for iOS. You can get it on github.com/Google/GSCX Scanner. It is free, and the rules here include contrast ratio, conflicting traits, tappable area, and label presence. And the last tool is Reveal, and this is available for iOS at revealapp.com. This is a paid product from $59 per year. It doesn't have rules as such, but this has a workspace with an inspector that allows you to visualize accessibility properties and allows you to reason about them. So instead of anything automated that tells you where you can make improvements, it just highlights things and makes things easier for you to see as an engineer. Automated UI testing. Automated UI tests are tests that run unattended as part of a continuous improvement, continuous delivery run. These help you to identify regressions quickly. They pick up on low-hanging fruit, saving time to investigate more detailed issues. Automated tests can never know developer intention, and they're not human, which means that you should use failures here as a guide for investigation and not necessarily a failure. And a pass also doesn't guarantee that your app is accessible. You will find false negatives, and you can only test for a subset of criteria. So let's cover some automated test tools. Espresso. If you are doing UI testing for Android, there's a good chance you're already using Espresso. It's Android's first-party UI testing framework. Many people aren't aware that it also includes some accessibility tests for things such as focus order, color contrast, and label presence. So this is free, and if you're already doing UI testing, chances are you can probably just enable this as it is. There is some details on the tools, on the tests that you can use as part of this on developer.android.com. In the Espresso documentation. Again, the link for this in full is in the slides. Ally UI tests. This is actually my library for iOS. You can get it at github.com/rwapp/ally UI tests. That's A11Y UI tests. This is free. It works with XE UI tests, the iOS first-party UI testing framework. So if you're already using that, this will fit in with that. This has 11 rules, including semantic role, valid labels, and minimum size. Evinced, as we discussed, has a free scanner. They also have an automation product, which is a paid product. And this uses the same engine as in the scanner. But the benefit of this is that it works in your CI/CD pipeline. And DQ also have a tool, although only for Android. And again, this is a paid product, and this includes touch target size and color contrast. And Google, if you remember, they had a scanner app. That engine is also available for UI testing if you use a framework such as Earl Grey. You can get that as github.com/Google/GTXIlib. And that is available for iOS. The rules there include color contrast ratio, conflicting trait, tappable area, and label presence. Then at the very bottom of our pyramid, we have a linting. Linting, you may be familiar with if you are writing code. It catches issues with the code as you write it. Android Studio will cache some of these issues in XML files. So when you're making XML interface files, such as images with no string value, for accessibility, Android Studio will highlight that for you by default. SwiftLint currently has a single rule for SwiftUI to check images are either hidden or have an accessibility label. And I know they are working on other rules for SwiftLint as well. So that is our mobile accessibility testing pyramid. User testing at the very top, followed by audit, manual testing, scanning, automated UI testing, and linting. So mobile accessibility testing, well, let's take a look at the subtitle, making it effective and efficient for everyone. How have we done on that measure? Well, clever use of automated testing will reduce the possibility of issues reaching manual testing. Quick testing maintains a base level of accessibility and makes developers think about accessibility when writing code. QA testing to WCAG 2.1 level AA guarantees an accessible experience for customers. There are no negative vibes from accessibility audits, and you get valuable feedback from real users. And this all boils down to saving you time, saving you money, and making sure that accessibility is baked in. So there we go, that's mobile accessibility testing. I feel that we have made it effective and efficient for everyone. Thank you very much.
AliCamp 2022.